Well, thank you for joining us for another hour here of Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host. We're this weekly program here that you tune into every now and then on Channel 96, bringing you some local vendors, local artists, talent, you name it. We're trying to be a service to you here in Nashua. I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Alan Somogie. Correct? Did I say that?
That's correct, Kevin.
Great.
Yes.
And Alan, you're basically a small business owner.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, Accutech is owned by me. I am Accutech.
You are Accutech. And you've been in the area for how long?
I've been in southern New Hampshire for, probably 20 years anyway.
Yeah.
I'm out of Pelham, and I run the business out of Pelham.
Okay. As we were talking a little while ago, you were just kind of talking about all the credentials you have, all the experience that you have.
Yeah.
So let's do a little history on you.
Sure.
What's your expertise?
Well, I don't know that I'm an expert in anything, but I have had experience in a variety of things. I changed careers about 12 years ago, and I decided to go into major appliance repair, commercial and domestic refrigeration and air conditioning. So I went to school down at Bay State School of Technology in Canton, Mass, and went through their entire program. And at the time, I was in my own painting and paper hanging business, which I had been in for about 16 years. And what I did was, to help pay the tuition, I painted for one of the owners of the school.
Yeah, that's creative.
At his home.
Yeah.
And so I went through that, and in the process was getting authorized as a servicer for Fisher-Paykel, Electrolux. Whirlpool was getting ready to pick me up. And I walked in the door at Maytag, and they hired me on the spot. And
Now, are you lonely?
when Jesse White, when we were growing up, Kevin,
For the listeners, the Maytag repairman is always very lonely, correct?
yes,
Yeah.
he used to be,
Yeah.
but he is no longer lonely anymore. And it's the field is very competitive. The whole, I don't care what you're talking, soup to nuts. You know, you've got the whole world. It's the global community in the process anymore. So China is heavily involved.
Okay.
South Korea is heavily involved. And the competition is fierce. So Jesse White, in the days of sitting around the telephone and waiting for a call to come,
Great.
they don't make them like that anymore.
They don't make them like that anymore, right? So, are they made to last anymore?
Well,
When I say they, I mean we're talking about appliances now, right?
well, my understanding is that it's roughly about 7 years for an appliance any longer, and they're so sophisticated electronically with the integrated circuitry and the sensors and, you know, water level issues, if you're talking about washing machines, that you've got a lot of things that can go wrong in the process, and that has been introduced into the mix for about the last, good 10 years anyway.
Are you being trained? Were you trained in these areas of technology with the new stuff coming up? I mean, is there?
In some ways, I was.
Yeah.
When I was in the Air Force about almost 40 years ago, I was put through ground radio communications, electronics school, and so I got a fairly good one. Bill Gates was beginning Microsoft, and I was in training for ground radio communication, so I had an electronics background back then.
Okay.
Of course, like an idiot, I did nothing with it. I went into music.
There's no money in music.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, we both know that now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I went with that instead of going into furthering myself electronically. But like I said, back in 2001, I changed careers and started going into appliance refrigeration. And recently, so anyway, Maytag hired me, and I was with them until they folded. They folded because of a variety of reasons. I don't want to say too much about it, but as you can only imagine, like in so many other things, the competition began to get fierce. Foreign countries were dumping product into this country, and so the competition gets fierce. You want to do something that looks good and is good for a while, but the idea of planned obsolescence is still very much on the table. And so they folded. Whirlpool bought them. I went over to Whirlpool. Whirlpool had a joint venture with Sears called A&E, and I was one of their techs for a while. But it got more and more crunched in the process, and how can you say it? You feel like a number.
Right.
You've got computers, you're on satellite, they know where you're going and why you're going there and how long you're supposed to be there and why you're not a very good tech or you're too slow or your numbers aren't there and, and the drone goes on and on and on.
Right.
And so.
Did this precipitate you going out on your own?
Yeah, more or less, more or less. I mean, I felt that as I was, after that I went to another company that was a little further west, but west and in Massachusetts for a good period of time, about 1.5 years. And this particular company worked on just about everything from trash compactors to LED TVs. And so I got experience working on plasma TVs, CRTs, LCDs, liquid crystal display, light-emitting diode TVs. And so that sort of rounded out my experience. So I have, somewhat of an experience in those areas too. And about...
Do you work on computers, PCs or anything?
I work on my own. I've
we
fixed
all?
several issues, up the RAM, change the power supply, computers don't appear to be all that complicated. You've got a main board, you've got a couple things, plug and plays.
Mostly in the programming.
I'm sorry?
I said it's mostly in the program.
Oh yeah, mostly in, I don't program. But not last winter, but the winter before last, I decided I would go to HVAC school, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And so I went to the New England Institute of Heating, Ventilation, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration, a good school. And I learned quite a bit, really learned some good troubleshooting tips and techniques. And
Are you licensed in these areas? Or?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
certified?
I'm licensed as a gas fitter in the state of New Hampshire. I'm certified with universal certification with the EPA 608, and I'm also certified as a automotive refrigeration
Oh, you do
technician.
cars?
I do.
Oh.
And I will come to your home or business
Interesting.
and recharge your automobile refrigeration.
So
So you don't have to wait at the dealership or your garage. You can continue your life, and I will come to you.
So you're at work, and you know what? Oh my gosh, that car was so hot. I got to call somebody up to find out where I can get my my air conditioning checked. Hey, there's Accutech.
There you go. And I will recharge the system. I'm not going to replace the compressor. I'm not going to get into that part of it. But
Right.
generally, what happens with refrigeration in automobiles is they just lose their charge.
Okay.
Because they're not hermetically sealed like a refrigerator.
Can you diagnose if there's a problem? For instance, if you put in if you recharge it, can you detect if there's a leak or something to that?
Well, if it's gone pretty quickly,
Yeah.
it's obvious there's a leak.
I see.
Yeah, and I mean, you could inject dye into the system, which they do if it persists. But generally, after several years, the seal around the compressor or someplace else just gets weak, and you've got pressure differences, and so.
That's quite a service, though, that you can go right. You'll go right to their work. I know it was almost a year ago. My dryer went on me. We just bought it.
Yeah.
And it still had the plastic on it. What's going on here? And so I unplugged it,
Yep.
and I spent a Saturday morning trying to fix it. And
Super Tech to the rescue, yeah.
yeah, well, I'm sitting there, and I had it all apart, and I was really proud of myself because all the pieces were laying exactly where they needed to go.
Yeah, I know lots of people who can take them apart.
Yeah.
It's the other side. That's just a little bit more difficult.
Well, it was interesting. It was the belt came off. It was something very simple like the belt. It wasn't wrecked. I don't know why it came off.
What kind was it? Do you remember?
I don't. It was a cheapo. It's a cheapo one, a couple $100 dryer. So I didn't want to pay a tech to do it. But
I don't blame you.
But my gosh, I wish I had at that point. But I got it together. I called my son, and he said, "No, Dad, you just got to loop it this way."
Yeah.
And it was something very simple. Then I had to put the thing back together, and
That was a Whirlpool dryer.
probably, yeah.
With a little foot that goes in the bottom.
Yes.
And it's got a idler pulley on it.
Yes, yes. And for the life of me, I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it. And my son was good at puzzles. So I had him, hey, come on, can you help me out with this one?
That's great.
Hey, Dad.
Sometimes another set of eyes is all you need.
Well, I really needed that because after a pot of coffee and a lot of frustration, and
Yeah.
I actually bruised knuckles and cut fingers,
Yeah.
and then I had to put it back, and I wasted my Saturday.
Yeah, I know, you know, lots of men are very mechanical, have mechanical aptitude, and they're capable of doing that, but
Not me.
some of the stuff that's out there, I'll tell you, I've worked on dishwashers that are more complicated than televisions.
Oh, is that right?
6-motor dishwashers.
Right.
LG, 6 motors in their dishwasher.
Are you finding a lot of television repair? I mean, these flat screen
I'm not
TVs?
doing television repair.
Okay.
I'm not doing it. I'm not. That's not part of my business.
Okay, all right.
But
I thought you brought it up.
there were a lot of failures, either main boards or power supplies. I could name some companies that had failures with their. There's so many things, for example, on an LCD television that's on the actual main board, whether it be your HDMI inputs or just, you know, the brain that tells the rest of the system what to do, is that
Right.
if one of the components on that board fails, you throw it away. They don't change components. Not usually. It's not cost effective.
Wow.
You just unplug it and plug something
Throw
else
away
in.
in the country, wow.
Yeah, or you send it back, and they will repair it. They will refurbish it, as they say.
So for our viewers, tell us, what are the areas you cover? You cover dishwashers, you recharge air conditioning, you work
Yep.
on heating systems, gas?
Gas heating,
Gas
I
heating.
work on. The areas I cover are basically home appliances. You know, every home has roughly 6 appliances in it. Dishwasher, washer, dryer, a microwave, a trash compactor, and a refrigerator. Every home. Roughly 6 appliances. I can work on any of those. I do home and light industrial air conditioning systems. I recently went to Mitsubishi to their training seminar for Mr. Slim, which is their very sophisticated technology. They are the front runner in, and I know I can't say too much in one direction, but historically what has happened with refrigeration or air conditioning is it's either on or it's off. And so those are very power-consuming parameters. But when you get what's called inverter technology, they maintain a temperature. So instead of the compressor having to have what's called locked rotor amperage put onto it, which may be 11 amps until it starts, these variable speed compressors, which are in these ductless, you know, in your homes you have ducts,
Right.
supply and return ducts that the air blows out of and gets sucked
Sure.
back into and all that, and you get a cycle of air. Well, none of that exists with ductless systems.
Do you install those?
I don't, but I service them.
You service
Yeah,
them?
no, it's just me.
Right.
No.
So that was going to be my next question. How big are you? How many employees?
I'm not big, and I'm not trying to get too big.
Right.
The idea of a herd of employees is really, you know, there are so many factors against the small businessman to set up a bunch of employees that it's not worth it. Recently, one of the men I worked for, you know, they virtually sunk his ship because of his
Overextending.
employees, and one of the employees was disgruntled, and one thing led to the next. And, you know, trying to run a business with a bunch of employees, you've got so
It's
much
like herding
overhead.
cats.
It can be very difficult, and I, over the years, have managed to evade that
Right.
in the businesses I've been in. So I don't really have an intention of going in that direction. So the size of me is what I am.
Right.
But I am certified, I am licensed, I'm insured, I'm professional.
And you're in the Yellow Pages.
I'm in the Yellow Pages. I've got a 5-star rating on the internet, yellowpages.com. I've had several companies recently, one out of California, one out of Florida, pick me up. Out of the Yellow Pages. Didn't know me from Adam, and went and serviced for them, and they're happy. And like I say,
MasterCard, Visa?
yeah, I take all credit cards, you know, all the regular ones, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, American Express.
Right. How far do you travel? What's your area?
I've got a 20-mile radius on the website, but I will go up to 30 miles.
Up to 30 miles, okay.
Yeah, and that's, in some areas, that's hitting the ocean.
Is there a fee for an automatic fee? You know, usually when people call, say,
It's on my website.
It is on your website.
Yeah,
I mean, what is your website?
What is it? It's www.accu-tek.biz. And you want me to tell you what my service rate is
Yeah,
to go there?
absolutely.
Okay. The trip charge and diagnostic fee is $75.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now it's springtime. Today, I believe, is the first day of spring, so that kind of marks the calendar for us.
Absolutely.
As far as, so what are some of the things that you generally see during the springtime or recommend during the springtime?
Well, I'm somewhat new and in the area of servicing air conditioning, home air conditioners. I mean, I'm very familiar with thermodynamics, and I've got a lot of sophisticated equipment. I've got a digital refrigerant systems analyzer. I've got a digital anemometer. I've got a digital combustion analyzer. I've got a bunch of things. You'll see it on my website.
Okay.
I've got state-of-the-art technology. It's coming into air conditioning season. So you want to, I've got a tune-up special. And it would be cleaning the condensing unit. I mean, if you want to talk about thermodynamics, we can talk about that and go through the refrigeration cycle. You want to change your filters, clean your condensing unit.
Do you clean the heating systems themselves or get them reconditioned? Or
No, I don't
do you update them or tune them up? Or
I tune them up.
Right.
I tune them up, and I will repair gas-fired systems.
Do you install water heaters or anything like that?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Just trying to go through the gamut with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, keep asking the questions, and this is a nice opportunity. Like I said, the lady whose home I went to a company out of Florida had hired me to go in and do preventive maintenance on her appliances, and I guess she was somewhat impressed with what I told her about keeping the dryer. She had a somewhat newer dryer that had gone from what are called click-on thermostats to thermistors, which are temperature-sensitive resistors.
Okay.
And the window of operation is much smaller with a thermistor. They're very sensitive, and so if in a dryer the heat isn't discharged quickly enough, it backs up into the unit, and your heating system shuts off.
Okay.
It just shuts down. And so your parameter of, it used to be about 15 degrees, but it can be even smaller than that. I say 15, no, it was probably 30 degrees. But it's getting smaller and smaller. So if you have an obstruction with your dryer, that thing will run and run and run and run and run, but it won't dry the clothes.
Oh.
Because the heating system continuously shuts off.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so that's a red flag for you then if it's constantly going, and then of course nothing's happening.
the dryers, one of the commonest complaints about a dryer is the vent.
Okay.
If it's not vented properly, you can have heat backing up, and so, like I say, the heating system shuts off, but the motor keeps turning the tumbler.
Do you go in and service refrigerators?
Absolutely.
Okay. And what would be one of the more common things that you seem to run into?
One of the very most common things that happens on a refrigeration unit in the home is what's called the evaporator fan motor.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, one of those, and it's, we'll say, top mount, bottom mount. In refrigerators, you have one fan in the whole refrigerator, generally. Now, some of them are more sophisticated. Samsung, Sub-Zero. They have dual compressors, like on Sub-Zero. I had a Sub-Zero. Dual compressors, one for the fresh food, one for the freezer. And so Samsung uses one compressor and dual evaporators. I know I'm...
No, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, we're getting a general idea here.
An evaporator, your evaporator fan motor is the fan that takes the cold that is created in the freezer, and it blows it up a manifold in the back of the freezer wall, and then you've got a diverter at the top of the fresh food that allows that air to come in, and then cold air settles, and hot air rises.
Of course.
And so you get this sort of cycle. Now, if that fan stops running, well, you're not moving the air, so the cold air will just settle in the freezer. And the common complaint on, 99 and 44/100% refrigerators is it's not cooling. Oh, thanks.
Well,
it's a great tip.
if people are running into that problem, especially summer coming, you're the person to call.
And what happens with refrigerators is because you have to dissipate that heat you're picking up through the products in the refrigerator, in the freezer cavity, and the fresh food cavity, you need to dissipate that heat, and that's where the condensing unit generally in the back of refrigerators, you've got a fan blowing that.
Okay.
As the compressor compresses the refrigeration gas into a high temperature, high pressure refrigeration gas, and then the condensing unit further condenses it into a liquid. And that is where your heat dispersion takes place.
I see.
Into the ambient. Now, if you've got a dog or a cat or any other animals, those condensing units can get coated with hair, and so the ability to dissipate that heat is minimized.
Right.
So cleaning is a key factor.
And you do that as well?
Sure,
Right.
Sure, yeah.
Well,
I deal with the appliances.
That's great. Well, I like the look of your van there. It looks like it's got everything in there except the kitchen sink, or maybe
That's right.
there is a kitchen sink.
I'm fully set up.
Do you work on garbage disposals too?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, if people want to get in touch with you, what number do they call?
They would call Kevin 603-490-3473.
3473. And you're Alan?
I'm Alan.
Are you insured?
I am.
People will ask that. It's got to be one of the most common questions.
It says it right on my site, on the homepage.
Yeah, and so when you walk into the house, you're not going to tread all over the carpet, and you're not going to break things.
It's funny you should mention that, because over the years I've been to different meetings for some of the bigger companies, and they will hire actors to show you what not to do in a customer's home. Come in with a dirty toolbox and scratch it across the counter.
Yeah.
You're a complete idiot. So by the time you're asking a customer a question, they're escorting you to the door.
Right.
So no, you need some experience.
Yeah.
You need to.
And you've been doing this for a while, as far as being,
Roughly 10, 11 years.
10, 11 years.
Yeah.
So. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I certainly do appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely, and we want our viewers to know that you're available. Are you open 24 hours a day, or
no, 9 to 5.
9 to 5. Okay.
Monday through Friday.
All right, Monday through Friday, and you're within a 30-mile radius. You'll service.
Absolutely.
So, Alan, thank you for coming on the show.
And thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
All right.